Welcome everyone. This is Acid Roots. Now, here's something that I'm going to dive into, and that's movie commentaries. Now, hopefully, as these continue, we'll start to really get some ones. I've definitely got a bunch of them planned. There's movies that I have liked when I was a teenager and even into my 20s and so on that I feel like are worthwhile experiences. So this is definitely a focal point as far as like what we need to see more of. This is as simple as you disowning the movie and pressing play when I tell you to. And it's not really trying to sound like an order, but you can follow along with a movie that you've probably seen 5, 3, 4, 6 times, and you can add a new experience to it. So the first movie that we're going to take on is going to be The Rundown with The Rock, Rosario Dawson, and Sean William Scott. And also, there's more. This movie, I saw it when it first came out. I remember being about 14 when this movie came out, and it kind of got me geared up for The Rock as far as his career was concerned. So I guess we'll just talk about it. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and then in the blank where I would say 0, that's where you press play. Now, what you should do, you should have the DVD copy of The Rundown and you should go to scenes. It's going to have 4 options. One of them is going to say scenes. So when you get there, there's chapters, and we're going to go to chapter 10. I'm not going to make you watch the entire thing. I will upload part 2 and 3 at a later date. So you should be on the retrieval expert. That should be highlighted, and we're going to get started. 3, 2, 1. Now, you should be seeing a globe, lights lighting up all across the earth. But yeah, like what I was thinking, The Rock, if you know him from wrestling, pretty much he's a man who has his way with words down, and it's exciting just because he was an interesting wrestler. And a lot of people will say the 80s was better, before 1997 was better. Days where there were people like Andre the Giant, but I that just wasn't my genre. And so, as far as wrestling is concerned, I have rented WrestleMania 20 a couple times, and I'm going to start watching those as a whole. Now, really, the point of this movie is that The Rock is trying to open a shop, and I think he wants to. You're going to see that he would like to be cooking, but he's kind of forced to be something that he doesn't want to do. Not really that much of a deal. You're probably wondering, like, what could happen. At the beginning of this movie, it almost seems like it's going to be like kind of a more high-tech version of like Lethal Weapon or something. I mean, The Rock, you should have just seen Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Rock is kind of, he's a little bit more approachable than Mel Gibson or some of these other cats. A lot of them are just more kind of stiff, and he's a little bit looser. I mean, Rock still kind of is business before pleasure, but he also, you're going to be able to see that he does do some of these things. Now, this is definitely an action movie that is worth it, and the fight scenes really go down together well. Like, everyone wants a piece of The Rock. That's kind of the thing. I mean, Sean William Scott, I think The Rock probably weighs like, it says in the movie he weighs like 220 pounds, but I think The Rock is like 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", 220, 230 pounds, and he Sean William Scott is like my size. He's more like probably 180 pounds, 5'9", 5'10", maybe even 5'11". But just seeing every single person is willing to fight, and that's kind of the joy of the movie, is that um, no one cares about their actual chances. So, but this starts off in like a club scene, and it's like, The Rock was kind of dealing with this beforehand. I guess I could call him Dwayne Johnson too. Now, really, and I know what you're thinking. Like most people, if you were to get put into this sort of role, you have to be willing to actually do it. And keep in mind, this is a PG-13 movie, but at the same time, the action. People when they get hit in the face, they're still gonna bleed. So that's essentially what it is. I was just looking for a movie when I saw this in 2003. I just didn't know what to think of it. Really, this was one of the first movies that I had seen where it's kind of like in a clubbish setting, but still has fighting in the meantime. And as that pertains, um, it was healthy. I didn't see Fast and the Furious when it first came out, and there were just other ones, big hits, cult hits with the younger set between like the years of 97 and 2004 or 5. But this movie, luckily I can watch it and it isn't completely cheesy, so that's a good thing. And so I mean, when I saw it, I thought, well, it was actually pretty worthwhile. I thought, The Rock is pretty slick. I'm gonna definitely see another movie with him in it. Now, the unfortunate part is after the next movie that he was in, which I think was called like Walking Tall, he kind of switched the role from his standard fight, since his fighting roles and everything. And but I mean, I did actually see a couple of his other movies. I think I saw Gridiron Gang, at least pieces of it. I just picked up Doom, and there's just been several of them. But a lot of these cats, it just it's fun. It's definitely like, I have noticed that a lot of times when people go to the club, they usually do get into a fight. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it just feels like clubs are just meant for fight scenes. But luckily, this one is not. It doesn't feel like, I don't know the word. Huh. Now this is just, it's gonna be pretty much no holds barred the whole time, and Sean William Scott chose this role. I think, at that point, he was in American Pie and everything, so it really only been like a couple years since it had only been like a couple years since he was in like those college movies, and if I had to think of what he was thinking, I think it was probably just, yeah, this is, I don't want to be typecast. This is getting tiresome, which is essentially what this is essentially what happened to be an issue. It was just really same type of role over and over and over. But I don't know what to think about as far as him as an actor and everything, just because he needs kind of like more roles. You know what I mean? Like he needs like hits. Like Samuel L. Jackson, he's got like so many hits that he has. He's got Snakes on a Plane. He's got the Avengers. He's got Star Wars. He's got. I think he was just in a ton of movies. He's been in so many. He's just got hits left and right. So if one franchise screws up, he's got another one. And Sean William Scott could be a little bit richer. He was kind of like the college hunk, though, I think. Pretty much. I mean, most of these guys in this film, were not people that weren't considered, attractive. So, which is good. The actors have star power, in other words. So as the plot progresses, The Rock just wants his restaurant. I don't know. I mean, what eludes me is just how the basis of this plot comes up, because I'm trying to figure out, like, why is The Rock working for this person? Why, if he needs the money, why does if he could just work and end up getting the money? I mean, I'm assuming that The Rock is probably about 30 years old in this movie. I don't know his name. I think his name is Beck. He's probably about 30, 31, 32 in this movie. And it's not that hard to start a restaurant. You know what I mean? I don't know how he got involved in that business. They just need to like give more of a background. Why was he doing this? This is a one-shot movie, which basically means it's only the movie, no further plot, no prior plot, so you just don't get the understanding of what happens. Really, most people would probably give the film about like a 7 out of 10, mainly because, if you're an adult watching this, is just a little bit, not everything leads to a fight. So, but I do like action. It's like a secret taste of mine, and it just happens to really work. I definitely feel like if you're still a fan of wrestling, you'll probably like this. And the answer is there's not a ton of clones to this movie. Jason Statham is someone who does movies like this, and Mark Wahlberg, but there's just not really a mega load of people. So we are going to take a trip to South America. And this is going to be really, it'll get you kind of wondering what's going to happen. But I will say that it's kind of pretty. I definitely would like to go to Brazil slightly, as long as there was civilization. I'm not feeling the jungle whole, big pristine jungles type thing. It just doesn't, not really what I would like. But it is pretty, definitely. Now, as the flights continue, we're gonna meet up with some new characters. Can't really think of terribly many movies that I saw back in 2003. I pretty much saw them at will, but just the main thing. I was gearing up to see The Matrix. That was a movie that I did see that year, as I did see Matrix Reloaded, and I I did like it. You know, it was pretty solid, but I just needed a little bit more. Like we needed like more hits like that. Once again, it's a good film in the sense that it makes you want to see like three or four more movies that are like that, and it's just unfortunate that you don't get it. But you know, 2003 was kind of at the point where everything was affected by the original Matrix movie, but we just didn't know what direction to go in. So I do know a little bit about films. Like The Matrix came out in '99. This was around the same time when Rush Hour was really big. So just not just action hero movies, but buddy hero movies where there's two main characters. Both of these were kind of blowing up. You know, Lethal Weapon was good and everything, but it was just, you know, Mel Gibson was, I think, into his 30s, and then Danny Glover, the black man, was, you know, older than that. So we needed people who could actually fight. And that's essentially what, you know, happened. The Matrix was definitely good, and there were just tons of films that were going on that way, but action, you know, some of these guys, they just happen to really nail it. Trying to think of what else. I mean, even women were getting involved in that sort of thing. Like, yeah, I mean, they made the Charlie's Angels movie, and I know I'm talking bad movies now, but um, yeah, I mean, were several. I can't really think of what else came out around the time. You know, just thinking on the spot, you know, you really have to do it. But so you're gonna notice in this film that all these guys kind of have like that brash, kind of adventurous heroes type style. You know, just they got the 5 o'clock shadow, the sweat stains on their shirts, and just generally greasier hair. I mean, I don't. It makes you wonder if that's like a disrespect to like Brazil or something. Is, you know, is it that much of a deal? No, but I mean, you just got to think of whether or not you like that picture. You know, you have to think, well, what would a woman be like if they looked the same way? And so I don't know. It makes you wonder, because I mean, this place looks like it's really in the sticks. That's the one thing I will say. But you know, it is, you know, by this point the movie was probably filmed in the year 2002, so it's like, um, do we still have places like this? I don't know. I'm not gonna get big on history, but you know, just I know what this is a sign of, and it's about like I think they're mining for diamonds and everything like that, and I don't know if that's actually the truth. I don't know what it is, but you know, obviously they've got a lot of things going on. So, but so yeah, just the way this stuff works. I know you're probably wondering what other films I have at bay, and the answer is I'm not gonna take you through the same type of film repeatedly, but I'm also not gonna do everything either. So if you're thinking I'm gonna go from a film like this to a film where it's about like vegetable farms, oh, I'm not gonna do that. So it's not going to be every single film. And a lot of times I just go by actors. I say, I remember this movie or I like this person, and that's pretty much what's going to happen. But, um, huh. Now here's where the plot picks up. There's a Gato and big treasure and everything. The Rock's gonna get involved. He doesn't want to, I will add. And, really, I wonder how many people have been through something like that where it's been, well, hey, going we're going to do this, but I want to do this, and I don't really want to do this, but we're going to do it. Like, so I mean, it happens from time to time. It makes this film a little bit more joyful just because, most people would say, "Oh, absolutely, I want to search for $1 million artifact," but he doesn't care, and it just so it's more important just because, like, not necessarily trying to win us over and score some money and everything. So, which is, everyone else does want it. I will add that that's pretty much how it goes. Even, Rosario Dawson wants it too. It's not like it's so. I'm trying to think of when this movie came out because, The Rock started getting roles about like the year 2000. He just somehow said, "Okay, I'm gonna do films," and I remember him being in The Mummy Returns, but he was only in it for like 30 seconds or so. And, after that came The Scorpion King, and it just things kind of catapulted from there. But, just when you look at these sorts of roles, I will say that his is probably something that you may not have, like, how many people do you hear about that just come up and their very first acting role, everyone's talking about it? That's something that you just don't see. Like, I guess another person would be Vin Diesel, but Ludacris didn't have that. And um, certain people, I guess it's just because they're actors first, but you know, uh, now look at the way The Rock is dressed. Like, if you were to see what he pretty much looks like, he's got something on his mind that he wants to do. He seems almost as if he doesn't want to get affiliated because he's got things already on his mind. I think that's pretty much like what you're gonna find out. But I have Now, like I said, yeah. Now, um, yeah. So things are gonna heat up, and I know like it's just a fight scene, but really, it a lot of people have different tastes when it comes to movies. That's one thing that's important is that don't think that I'm just a movie buff because I'm not. I mean, I am a movie buff, but I'm not like I don't need fights to get accelerated. But now like I do like most of the fights in this movie. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to approach things, but I do like most of the fights in this movie, and you know, they don't always work in every single film. Like you think that they would, but it doesn't always happen, and it's part of the interesting part of the film is just that you get some good stuff going on. Now, I don't know if it's just because it's in Brazil. I don't know if that's if they were just to be fighting like in New York or something or Chicago, would it be half as interesting as it were? But in a lot of ways, this does kind of remind me of almost like something you would see in a video game. Just because all you have to do is beat up, beat down 6 to 10 people and complete things. But really, there's just not a lot of people in real life that are doing this for a living. The closest thing you get to that is just competitive sort of stuff. So, like I said, this is almost like a modern fantasy. But I'll double it and quadruple it. Now, so yeah, this sort of thing. Just trying to. There's more than one person in this film that can fight. That's don't think that there isn't. I mean, but like I did. It was something that made me wonder. Well, I don't know. I guess I just want to see a movie like because I play video games. I want to see like a movie kind of like Final Fight. I think that's like a major thing for me. They made a movie of Double Dragon, and that's just like all that is a beat 'em up. You just fight everyone you see, and those sorts of movies are interesting. So I just learned about another one called Big Trouble in Little China, which The Rock is going to be in. He's working on it, and just an '80s hit. But the problem with it is I look up, I go to Internet Movie Database and I look up for some of these that are kind of, I look up some of these that are similar to one another, and it just is kind of difficult to find them. Obviously, I would recommend probably like hmm, some Jet Li movies, stuff like that. But I mean, you'll find them on my channel, so don't worry about that. But so Sean William Scott, he could probably, he's kind of wiry. That's the thing about him is, you think he kind of plays kind of a role that makes him look, submissive, but he's not. Like really, it's not necessarily that. This motherfuckers happen to be kind of. But I just don't think you'd see a whole film on him be whooping ass the whole time. So there's always that. But I've realized that when people take like the starring role and everything, you got to understand that you have to be like you do have the most screen time. So that's one thing you have to. If you're gonna be the center role, I mean, everything that you do matters in the movie. Your the tone in your voice matters, and the what you're wearing matters. I mean, just all these sorts of things. I mean, it's not just like, oh, I'm the guy who sells this person soda at the gas station. It's actually like people. You gotta. That's essentially what you're getting. But we're about to wrap things up. There's one more chapter. This is chapter 9, and that'll be it. We'll see part 2 very soon, and so I think this is Christopher Walken. Like yeah. So yes, I definitely do want to. I'm thinking about doing walking tall, but the problem is that, well, I don't. I guess it really isn't a big one, but the big thing is I don't want to do the same type of movie repeatedly. But like, okay, so everyone's going after the Gato. That's essentially what's happening. Everyone wants it, and so it's, right now everyone's being civil, but it's not going to last for very much longer. There's gonna start being killings, and there's gonna be some bloodshed. Things are just gonna get a little bit more, shaky. So, under that context, you just have to think about, what, you want to know what's going to happen. So, all right. So we're at chapter 10, and there's only like 28 chapters. So I am going to cut things off and everything. You should see them walking through the forest, but I will show this part again. So, all right. Subscribe for more fun. I have paused it now. Subscribe for more fun. We're definitely going to do more. Part 2 of the rundown will go up, but this is just like an experiment to see how well it succeeds, and we'll keep going.